Well, welcome to this week's episode of TheSquare. I'm really excited to have Halima McWilliams, who is the Director of HR, and you have a particular focus on people, operations, and culture.
That's correct.
So before we jump into this week's topic, tell me a little bit about why HR, why do you do what you do?
Usually most people in HR usually need to get their temperature checked as to why they go into it. But I would say, it's two reasons. I think part of it is you want to have a great organization that you work for and you work with that provides people with an experience where they can bring their whole selves to work, where they can do what they do best and feel like they're a part of the organization and part of the good mission or purpose or services that we offer. And so why I do it and feel like HR is a good part of the team is really helping to reinforce the firm's values, our culture, how we behave, how we get along, how we connect. So that's always been a part of the passion of my work.
I would imagine at times it can be a little bit of a thankless job. But I'm fortunate enough. Is it good that I have a great relationship with HR, or just that I'm down there enough that I have to have a good relationship with HR?
This is what I'll say. You're on the list.
No doubt. So today's topic, we're talking about the internship. And because of what has been going on with COVID and the pandemic, you've decided to do a digital internship.
Yeah.
I'm really curious why, because there's a lot of companies I've heard that canceled the internship. There's probably a lot of reasons not to do it. So why do it?
Sure. I think we actually deliberated that. Should we not? How do we do it? In the world of design thinking, one of those big questions is always, how might we? Mm-hmm. How might we do this in a way that honors our culture, honors our values, and still gives the interns a meaningful experience? And how do we pull this off in a matter of a few weeks?
Yeah.
So those were a lot of things that we had to consider, as well as, I think, to your point, the backdrop of COVID-19 and why we're even in this place and position to consider the virtual internship. What does that look like? What does that feel like? And on the other side of this, is it going to be something that matters to our interns, to our industry, and even to the employees that are directly or indirectly participating? Is this something that is meaningful for us? And we ultimately came to the answer of yes.
So what's the purpose? I mean, I'm sure it's probably shifted a little bit with the idea of doing it remote and doing it digital. Yeah. But in general, what's the purpose of doing an internship at Corgan?
Sure. I'll say one of the main purposes is it's really about creating that stepping stone, that practical experience moment or journey as they're going through their academic career. Usually our profile of student is second year through fifth year students, some even master's degree students who, formal education, as we know, is one part of the recipe, but connecting with project architects, with principals, with seasoned experts in the field of design and architecture is just as important and relevant. And so that was important to us.
What are the interns? What's the goal for what they do when they come and do an internship?
Yeah. In our, I'll say, traditional or classic internships, we would have them work on billable projects. They would be working on project-based work. Some of them might be redlining. Some of them may be, assisting in some research. There's just a gamut of things that they would do in more of our classic approach. And so...
Not just getting coffee.
Not just getting coffee, even though that's on their to-dos. But no, not just getting coffee. But the other part is the intangible part that all of us have been affected by with COVID, is that connection and that community in person, in office, is on pause right now. So how do we create a sense of community, connection, them being able to network even from a virtual perspective, so that on the other side of this, they have people that they can reach out to say, I actually know, a principal at Corgan, and he told me or she told me, call him any time I need some advice. Yeah. So that's what we want to see on the other side of this, is that the network for them grows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the experience then moving from that classical internship
Yeah.
to what's going to be happening this year with the
Sure.
digital internship. What
Yeah.
is that going to look like?
Very exciting. I'll say if I was an intern interning at Corgan, I would want to sign up, stay signed up, stay connected.
Yeah.
So
They'll be the first class of intern that can complete it in
oh
their
my
pajamas.
gosh, yes. So the fact that you don't have to get dressed up is definitely a bonus. But no, I think this intern experience is what we're calling it, will be a 4-week journey that they will start with us on July 6th all the way through July 31st. And over the course of that, one of the primary key pieces of it will be doing a sprint with our Hugo sector design and
Yeah,
research
sure.
group. So exciting. And the focus will be around agility. And so not only are they going to experience the agility of us going from a classic internship
Yeah.
in person in office, it's also going to continue through the Hugo sprint that they're going to do over the course of 2 weeks. And so on the other side of that sprint, they will have some producible documents and work that they can showcase to those across the firm, but also this will be a great resume builder and, some producible things that they'll be able to showcase, be it once they return back to campus and are, going forward in their major.
Is there still the opportunity to get some of that mentorship?
Absolutely. One of the things that we do here at Corgan is around strength finders. And strengths finders is really about identifying what are those unique things or those top strengths that you bring to the table that really help a project or a team flourish. And so one of the things that we're going to do as a part of their journey with us over those 4 weeks is they're going to take the strengths finders assessment, which normally we don't do that with interns over our classic one. But again, we're doing things differently this time.
Yeah.
So we're going to take their top 5 strengths and match them to people who have similar or same top 5 strengths throughout the firm and create a little bit of that mentorship experience in regards to, say, Brandon is one of your top 5 is that you're very analytical. Well, we're going to match Mary, who may have that in her profile as well, to say, hey, talk to Brandon and ask him how he uses that and applies
got
that to his day-to-day work.
Yeah.
Because many times these students have never experienced, I'll say, some type of personality or assessment of this sort. So we want to introduce that to them as well, because diversity of thinking, diversity of problem solving is very important when you're coming to a building, a profession, an organization. Bring your best self, but also who are you and what is the best about you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So regardless of it being a digital internship or a physical internship
Yeah.
or at Corgan or not at Corgan, what are some of those keys? You have a wealth of experience in this area of HR. So what are some of those keys to a successful internship to kind of, really getting the marrow of the bone of the experience?
Yeah. For the interns, we've shared with them, or we will be sharing with them, listen, learn, and ask all the questions that you want. We want them to activate that nerve, that vein of curiosity times 1,000, especially because we're going to be virtual.
Yeah.
So don't feel like any question is, not okay. It is okay. But that's why we also are creating, in a way, a community for them as they start to onboard with us. They're going to have some specific point people in the studio. They're going to have their strength finders person. They're going to have their HR person. So they're going to have a community supporting them as they journey through with us, so that they feel and know that it's safe for them to connect, reach out, and ask those questions that maybe they wouldn't ask in a classroom. We want to give them an intimate experience, but one that's very meaningful too.
So just this last week, I was sending someone, a friend here at the office, an anniversary email saying congratulations for 35 years,
Yeah.
which was mind-blowing. And it's one of those things that's really been completely different from other places that I've worked, that there's people that have been here for 10, 15, 20, 25, 35 years. And that's not like one or two people. There's a lot of people that have been here that long. And so there's a lot of longevity.
Yeah.
That said, a lot of those people, this was their first job, or the internship led to that first job.
Yeah.
What is the fact that there's a lot of internships being canceled?
Yeah.
How is that going to affect the industry
Yeah.
and that idea of longevity and
Yeah.
hiring moving forward?
Yeah. I think, from what we've learned and what we saw in 2008, 2009, when that recession happened, and as I joined the firm a couple of years ago and talked to a number of different people about the talent gap that the recession created, that also, I'll say, was in the back of our minds, but maybe in the front of our minds as we were answering how might we make this possible to offer a virtual internship so that we could be in a position to, of course, I'll say, be thinking about us as Corgan, and how do we start to create a talent pipeline or keep the pipeline filled, but also thinking about the industry at large and knowing that the lessons from 2008 and that many people who were licensed and registered at that time had to take sharp pivots and find and recreate themselves. We want to try to hopefully minimize that by offering this possibility of an internship that's going to happen over 4 weeks. You know, does it stand up, or is it exactly the same as our classic one? It's not, but we're okay with that because we know that we're doing something that's positive and it's meaningful for our interns, and being in a position where we can honor our commitment, we're very proud of that. But we also want to be impactful to the industry.
So then, let's say we get to the fall, we get to the next internship class. It's a big unknown, right, as to where we'll be as a society and with the pandemic. And so, how do you think doing this 100% digital internship will affect what would typically be a classical 100% in the building internship in the fall?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we've started to talk about that and think about that because we also, you know, as I talked about earlier, our campus recruiting and our efforts around our campus connections and partnerships is very vital to our organization. So we're talking about it really from even a broader perspective of how do we engage when job fairs are happening? How do we engage when it comes to the next round of interns? And so we may have to take this 4 weeks and now amplify it to where it is 12 weeks. So then what does that look like? How do we offer that? But then if we are able to somewhat transition to a fall internship in person, the classic way that we've done it, we have building occupancy components that we have to consider. And then the facilitation and classes and all of those things, the neighborhoods, all of that is required to be thought about before we can even take that next leap.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens over the next month, getting to meet these interns virtually and see the experience, hear the stories that they have that come out of this. If you're interested in applying for the fall semester, make sure you check out in the description below for a link how to do that. And thank you so much for being here, Halima.
I appreciate it.
And I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. We'll see you next time.